Elvis Presley invited Bruce Lee to Graceland. The two legends entered a room, and 47 minutes later when they emerged, both men were changed forever. August 1972. Memphis, Tennessee. The temperature was 94 degrees and climbing. Graceland stood behind its gates like a fortress. White columns gleaming in the afternoon sun, the king's castle closed to the world. Inside, Elvis Presley paced the living room. He was 37 years old. His movies were behind him. His concerts were becoming spectacles of excess rather than artistry. The pills were piling up. The weight was creeping on. The control was slipping away. But Elvis had a secret that few people knew. He was obsessed with martial arts. Not the flashy kind. Not for show. He'd been studying karate seriously since his army days in Germany, working his way through the ranks with genuine dedication. He had a black belt. He had a private dojo built in Graceland's basement. He trained when he couldn't sleep, which was most nights. And he'd become fixated on one man, Bruce Lee. He'd seen The Big Boss. He'd watched Fist of Fury 3 times in his private screening room. He didn't watch them like a fan watches a movie star. He watched them like a martial artist studies another martial artist. Frame by frame. Movement by movement. That man moves different, Elvis told his instructor, Kong Ri, during a training session in June. Everything I've learned. Stances, blocks, strikes. He makes it look like we're doing it wrong. You're not doing it wrong, Kong said carefully. He's just doing it different. Faster. More direct. I need to meet him. Kong paused. Elvis Bruce Lee is. I don't care what he is. Get him here. I'll pay whatever it costs. I need to understand what he knows. 3 phone calls later, the invitation was extended. Bruce Lee was in Los Angeles, preparing for Enter the Dragon. He was 32 years old. He was on the edge of global stardom but didn't know it yet. He was tired. He was fighting studio executives who wanted to water down his vision. He was proving himself every single day. When the invitation came, Elvis Presley wants to meet you at Graceland. Bruce's first response was suspicion. Why? He asked his wife Linda. Does it matter? It's Elvis Presley. Everything matters. What does he want? The message came back through Kong Ri. Elvis wants to train with you. Private. Just the two of you. No cameras. No press. No witnesses except one instructor to mediate. Bruce considered this. Then he smiled, not his public smile, but the small, knowing smile of someone who recognizes sincerity. Tell him I'll come. But tell him this isn't a demonstration. If he wants to learn, he has to be willing to be wrong. August 16, 1972. Bruce Lee arrived at Graceland at 4:47 p.m. The gates opened. A car brought him up the long driveway. Elvis himself answered the door. Not a bodyguard, not an assistant. Elvis, barefoot, wearing a black GI, his hair perfect despite the heat. They shook hands. 2 icons. 2 men who'd spent their entire lives being watched, now facing each other without an audience. Thank you for coming, Elvis said. His voice was quieter than Bruce expected. Genuine. Thank you for asking properly, Bruce replied. They walked through Graceland. Past the famous jungle room, past the gold records on the walls, down a staircase to the basement where Elvis had built his dojo. A simple room. Hardwood floors. Mirrors on one wall. Training equipment in the corner. No luxury. No spectacle. Just space to move. Kong Ri was already there, standing respectfully to the side. Elvis gestured to the center of the room. I've been training for 15 years. I have a black belt. But watching you move, I know I'm missing something fundamental. I want to understand what it is. Bruce walked to the center of the floor. He stood completely still for a moment, then turned to face Elvis. Bruce didn't raise his voice. He didn't have to. Show me your best technique, Bruce said simply. The one you're most confident in. Elvis nodded. He took his stance, a classic karate position, weight distributed, hands up, solid foundation. It was technically correct. Any instructor would approve. He executed a reverse punch. Fast. Powerful. His fist shot forward with impressive speed, stopping precisely where it should in a controlled demonstration. Again, Bruce said. Elvis did it again. Same stance. Same punch. Same control. Bruce watched with those penetrating eyes that seemed to see through technique into intention. You're very good, Bruce said. And he meant it. There was no condescension. You've trained hard. Your form is textbook. But may I show you something? That's why you're here. Bruce stepped forward. He didn't take a stance. He just stood, relaxed, hands at his sides, weight centered. Punch me, he said. For real. Not demonstration. Not control. Try to hit me. Elvis hesitated. I don't want to. You can't, Bruce said calmly. That's what I'm going to show you. Try. Elvis set his stance again. He threw the punch, fast, committed, aiming for Bruce's chest. In 3 seconds everything changed. Second one, Bruce's hand moved. Not a block. Not a deflection. Just a minimal shift. 2 inches to the left, his fingers brushing Elvis's wrist. Second 2, Elvis's punch continued forward but his balance was gone. Something about that tiny touch had disrupted his entire structure. Second 3, Elvis stumbled forward, his weight carrying him past Bruce, who hadn't moved his feet. Bruce's other hand came up, not striking, just touching Elvis's shoulder with 2 fingers. Elvis fell to one knee. Not hard. Not injured. Just completely off balance, controlled, stopped by the gentlest possible contact. The room was silent. Kong Ri's eyes were wide. He'd seen Bruce in demonstrations, but this was different. This was teaching. Elvis stayed on one knee for a moment, processing what had just happened. Then he looked up at Bruce, and something shifted in his expression. Not embarrassment. Recognition. How? Elvis asked quietly. Bruce extended his hand and helped Elvis to his feet. Your technique is strong. But you're using force against force. I'm using your force against yourself. The difference isn't in the muscles. It's in the understanding. Show me again. Slower. For the next 47 minutes, Bruce Lee taught Elvis Presley. Not techniques. Not forms. Understanding. He showed him how tension creates weakness. How anticipation creates lag. How the mind's expectation of what should happen blinds you to what is happening. Bruce placed Elvis's fist against his chest. Push, he said. Elvis pushed. Hard. Bruce's body absorbed it, redirected it, sent it back, and suddenly Elvis was stepping backward, controlled by his own force returning to him. You're fighting yourself, Bruce explained. Every time you prepare to strike, you announce it. Every time you commit to power, you sacrifice adaptation. I'm not stopping you. You're stopping yourself, and I'm just showing you the pattern. Subscribe and leave a comment, because the most important part of this story is still unfolding. They worked through principle after principle. Bruce would demonstrate something impossible. Touching Elvis's wrist and making his entire body freeze, tapping his elbow and making his punch collapse, shifting his weight imperceptibly and making Elvis lose his balance. But he never humiliated. Never showboated. Every demonstration was followed by explanation. Every impossible feat was broken down into understandable mechanics. This isn't magic, Bruce kept saying. This is observation. This is economy. This is removing everything unnecessary until only the essential remains. Elvis absorbed it all with the focus of a true student. The king of rock and roll, one of the most famous men on earth, sweating in his own dojo, falling to his knees again and again, getting back up, asking Bruce to show him one more time. At one point, Elvis asked, "How do you move so fast?" Bruce smiled. "I don't move fast. I move early. By the time you see the movement, the decision was made 3 seconds ago. Your eyes are watching the technique. I'm watching your intention. He demonstrated. He told Elvis to punch him whenever he wanted, no signal, no warning. Elvis waited, then threw the punch. Bruce's hand was already there. Not blocking. Already in position. As if he'd known before Elvis knew. How? Elvis breathed. Your shoulder tensed. Your weight shifted. Your breathing changed. You told me you were going to punch before you punched. I don't have faster hands. I have earlier eyes. Away from the cameras, Bruce made a choice no one expected. As the session continued, Bruce noticed something. Elvis was learning the techniques quickly. His body was well-trained, responsive. But there was something else happening. Something deeper. Elvis kept asking questions that weren't about fighting. How do you stay centered when everything around you is chaos? How do you know which path is right when everyone's telling you different things? How do you keep control when you feel like you're losing yourself? Bruce realized this wasn't just about martial arts. This was about life. About being Elvis Presley. About the weight of fame and expectation and the slow dissolution of self that comes with being an icon. Bruce stopped demonstrating techniques. He walked to the side of the room and picked up his water bottle. He sat down on the floor, cross-legged, and gestured for Elvis to sit across from him. Kong quietly excused himself. Some moments don't need witnesses. You don't need more techniques, Bruce said. You have plenty. What you need is to understand why you're training. Elvis was quiet for a long moment. Then, I feel like I'm losing control. Of my health. My career. Myself. When I train, for a little while, I feel like me again. Like I have something I can control. Bruce nodded. I understand that. But you're approaching it wrong. You're trying to use martial arts to fight yourself. To force yourself back into control. That's why you keep asking about power and speed and dominance. Isn't that what martial arts is? No. Bruce's voice was gentle but certain. Martial arts, real martial arts, is about harmony. Not control. You don't dominate yourself into shape. You observe yourself. Accept what is. Then you work with it, not against it. He reached into his bag and pulled out something small. A black belt. Not a fancy one. Just a simple, worn belt. I want you to have this, Bruce said. Elvis's eyes widened. I can't. It's not a rank. It's a reminder. This belt is from my first teacher. He gave it to me when I was young and stupid and trying to prove I was the toughest fighter in Hong Kong. I was winning fights but losing myself. He placed the belt on the floor between them. He told me, the belt doesn't make you strong. It reminds you to be humble. Every time you tie it on, you remember that you're still learning. That mastery isn't about being unbeatable. It's about being teachable. But what followed would stay with everyone who witnessed it, forever. Elvis picked up the belt. He held it with both hands, and for a moment, his famously controlled public face completely crumbled. Tears ran down his cheeks. I don't know how to stop, he whispered. The pills, the food, the shows. I don't know how to just be still and be enough. Bruce didn't offer platitudes. He didn't tell Elvis it would be okay. He just sat there, present, giving him space to be honest. Then start there, Bruce said finally. Start with being still. That's the first technique anyone learns, but it's the last one anyone masters. Just be still. No performance. No proving. Just exist. They sat together in silence for several minutes. Two legends. Two men carrying impossible weight. No cameras. No witnesses except the walls of Graceland. When they finally stood, Elvis tied the belt carefully around his waist over his GI. He bowed to Bruce, a real bow, student to teacher. Thank you, Elvis said. Not for the techniques. For seeing me. Bruce bowed back. Thank you for being willing to be seen. They walked upstairs together. At the front door, Elvis stopped. Bruce, can I ask one more thing? Anything. Don't tell anyone about this. Not what happened. Not what we talked about. Let people wonder. Bruce smiled. Some things are meant to be private. This was between two students, not two legends. They shook hands one final time. Bruce left through the gates at 5:34 p.m. 47 minutes that would never be recorded, never be photographed, never be confirmed. Share and subscribe. Some stories deserve to be remembered. Elvis wore that black belt every time he trained for the rest of his life. It was found in his room when he died in 1977, carefully folded on his bedside table. Conry never spoke about what happened in the dojo that day until 2019, 47 years later, when he was 89 years old. He simply said, "Two masters met. One taught technique. One taught life. Both left different men." Bruce Lee died 1 year later in 1973. He never mentioned the meeting publicly. But Linda Lee later found a note in his journal, dated August 16, 1972. Taught the king today. He already knew everything he needed. He just needed permission to remember. The belt stayed with Elvis until the end. A reminder that strength isn't control. It's stillness.